After months of advocacy and lobbying, the Independent National Electoral Commission finally got the Senate to give it the legal backing to transmit election results electronically. Earlier, the Senate had inserted the controversial clause in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill that subjected the electronic transmission of election results by INEC to the approval of the telecoms regulator and the National Assembly. However, INEC and Nigerians kicked against the insertion of the clause on the grounds that it was unconstitutional, will erode the independence of INEC, and could compromise the electoral process. Eventually, the Senate bowed to pressure on Tuesday by deleting the offensive clause and paved the way for INEC to determine the procedure for the transmission of election results. With a bold step taken by the upper legislature, all eyes are now on President Muhammadu Buhari to give his assent to the bill after it has been harmonized at the National Assembly. Joining us now to discuss the import of this for the country's electoral process and the readiness of the Commission to implement e-transmission of results nationwide is Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee. Good morning, Dr. Okoye, and thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. Very quickly, is INEC excited?
Yeah, good morning.
Morning. Is INEC excited that the Senate has now finally come round to join the House of Representatives in saying that electronic transmission is possible and that there will be no kind of restrictions imposed on INEC in going ahead in that regard, starting with the November 6th Anambra gubernatorial elections?
Well, you know that the Commission is a creation of the Constitution and a creation of the law. Whatever we do it on behalf of the Nigerian people. We're a very responsible corporate citizen. So I believe that the Nigerian people wanted electronic transmission of election results, and it is gratifying that the National Assembly, the Senate especially, reflected on the issue and also decided that it was important to accede to the request of the Nigerian people, since sovereignty resides with the Nigerian people. So I think that the credit for whatever has happened must go to the Nigerian people, must go to civil society groups and organizations, and to the media. We are just a responsible organization trying to find ways and means of conducting free, fair, and transparent elections.
Right, and from your vantage point of view, what is your take on that Section 87, which refers to direct primaries? I know INEC doesn't have a particular horse in the race. Your job is just to monitor. But what is your view on those saying that direct primaries are a disadvantage to certain political parties?
Well, you have to look you have to look at the issue holistically in relation to where we are coming from. There was a time when aspirants, when candidates complained bitterly that the nomination processes of their political parties was opaque, was not transparent, and was disenfranchising in terms of giving power to the party members. And then we now had a situation where we had the direct and indirect primaries, and people were still complaining because most political parties use the indirect primary method for the purposes of nominating their candidates. Now, as far as the Commission is concerned, the issue of the conduct of party primaries is primarily and fundamentally within the domestic compass and realm of the various political parties. But in conducting their party primaries, they are under a constitutional and legal obligation to conform to the dictates of the law, especially Section 285 of the Constitution and also Section 87 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended. Now, the challenge here is that I understand that from the point of view of the Commission, we understand issues around the conduct of party primaries and the myriad of complaints that attends the conduct of party primaries. If you look at the 27 by-elections and off-season elections that we conducted since the end of the 2019 election, you will see that not even a single one has been upturned on the grounds of INEC's processes and procedures, but most of the challenges revolved around the conduct of party primaries and also around the nomination of qualification of candidates. Now, the basic issue, the basic challenge with the conduct of direct primaries and the mandatory nature of the provision that INEC must or shall monitor the party primary conduct of direct primaries is the huge cost outlay and also the huge number of personnel that will be deployed for this particular exercise. Now, if you take, for instance, if a political party decides to conduct direct primaries and insists that every party member will vote and that this voting will take place at the polling units created by the Independent National Electoral Commission, the implication is that the commission must deploy monitors to 176,996 polling units to go and monitor the conduct of these direct primaries. Not only that, if the party decides that is going to conduct presidential primaries differently or separately, governorship primaries separately, National Assembly primaries separately, and State Assembly primaries separately, the implication is that the commission must go back 4 times. And if you times that by the number of political parties we have, which is 18, you will see the huge number of personnel that will be deployed and the huge cost outlay. So the implication is that in political parties conducting direct primaries, we are conducting a major election. We are conducting a full election because almost the number of personnel that you need for the conduct of election are the number of personnel you need for the conduct of direct primaries. But as an organization, if the law is passed, because I understand that under Section 228 of the Constitution, the National Assembly can make laws regulating or relating to internal democracy within political parties. If the law is passed, we are under a constitutional and legal obligation to comply, and we find ways and means of acceding to the dictates of the law.
All right. So a lot of people are saying, yes, a lot of work has been done to push this. In any way, do you think that report by INEC was a big push in the door for all of this? You know, that very comprehensive report, you know, that INEC put out with MTN and some other telecoms saying, okay, we can actually do this is what we can achieve. Because while the lawmakers first met with the NCC, and a lot of people thought they should have met with INEC first, nothing, you know, moved the needle until that report came out. You're smiling, so
well,
that report was a joker.
In the entire conversation, you know, in the entire conversation relating to the issue of electronic transmission of results, the commission was completely left out. The views of the commission was never sought. So people were trying to shave our heads behind our backs, and we said no. This is our own position. This is our own narrative. And let the Nigerian people look at our own narrative, look at our own issues, look at what we have done in the past and what we intend to do in the present. We also dispel some of the misconceptions relating to the issue of electronic transmission of results so that the Nigerian people will have a very, very clear idea. And also members of the National Assembly will have a very clear idea of where we are, what we have done in the past, and what we are capable of doing now. So what we did was to join the debate and also push our own narrative so that other people do not do the narratives on our behalf and misrepresent our position as a commission.
Well, except that the only thing that has changed is the removal of that subsection 3 of clause 52. As the spokesperson of the Senate pointed out clearly, that clause 52 subsection 3 was an attempt to erode the independence and make mockery of the independence, the autonomy of INEC. But let's leave that. You know, one of the statements that came out of INEC recently was INEC saying that more security will be needed for INEC to be able to conduct the elections in Anambra on November 6th. INEC also expressed concern about its facilities that have been damaged and also the security of its personnel, particularly hard work staff. Now, it's just, you know, almost the 11th hour to that election. Has there been any response? Has there been any assurance that the relevant security agencies will provide the required security, considering the fact that many of the candidates have fled the state? They are now campaigning on the streets of Asaba and Lagos, offshore campaign. I don't know whether that's part of your Electoral Act, but is INEC really ready in the light of this current development?
Well, as you are aware, on the 23rd day of May 2021, our office in Awka was attacked. We lost over 60% of the non-sensitive materials already deployed. We lost 6 of our utility vehicles. We lost 326 generating cells that were mopped up from all the registration areas. We lost our stores, and our office was burnt and vandalized. We have either reconstructed or repaired all these facilities. So the non-sensitive materials have already been moved again back to Awka. We mobbed some of them off from our zonal stores, and the ones that had to be replaced afresh, we have replaced them. Some of these facilities, the non-sensitive materials have already been bashed and are already being moved to the local government areas, preparatory to being deployed to the registration areas. So we are moving apace with the conduct of the elections. All the electoral officers have been trained. The assistant electoral officers have been trained. The security agencies that are also going to be the trainers in relation to training, cascading the training to the lower level, have also been trained. On the 19th day of this month, we will begin the training of the presiding officers and assistant presiding officers. So as far as the commission is concerned, we are moving ahead with this election. Postponement is not even an option, because the option of postponement may lead to very grave constitutional consequences, and we are not ready to go to that direction. Now, the security agencies, we have had meetings with them, both at the national level and also at the state and local government levels. We have also interacted and interfaced with the various the leadership of the political parties, and the consensus is that everything possible should be done to make sure that the election holds are scheduled. And so the security agencies are deploying and deploying professionally. They are deploying to our various offices. So we want to make sure that all the ad hoc staff that will be deployed for this election are properly and fully protected, that our materials are protected, and more fundamentally, that all the voters that are going to exercise their democratic franchise are protected and given assurance that they can come out to come and vote, and their votes will be made to count. So we have the assurance of the security agencies that they are going to share information, that they are going to be very, very professional and ethical in their conduct, so that the people will have an assurance that the electoral environment will be conducive for them to exercise their democratic choices and franchise.
It's good to hear all of this, but what of a major stakeholder like IPOB and the ESN, in the process? Did you also engage with them to get their buy-in?
Well, you know that constitutionally and legally, the mandate and the remit of the Independent National Electoral Commission is to organize, undertake, and supervise elections. The issue of electoral security is left for the security agencies, and the Nigerian police force is the lead agency in terms of election security. We are engaging with all the critical stakeholders. We are engaging with civil society groups and organizations. We are engaging with traditional rulers. I
was specific. I asked IPOB. I asked you about IPOB and ESN. Within the commission's realm, we recognize political parties, we recognize the people of Anambra State, we recognize civil society groups and organizations, we recognize traditional institutions and the clergy. So if they are part of civil society groups and organizations and they attend our programs, we will tell them what we intend to do in relation to Anambra elections. But in terms of IPOB, the commission will not go out of its way to go and engage with an organization that the federal government has declared as illegal.
So we won't do that. But any civil society group or organization that attends our programs or wants to attend our program, that civil society group or organization is welcome.
I mean, you've already gone some way in answering this question, but I have to narrow it down to the electorate. You have 2.5 million registered voters in Anambra. How can those voters be assured of their safety? Can they actually come out and exercise their franchise at this point when political parties are running scared to even campaign?
I think that the political parties and the candidates in this election also have a responsibility to show courage, to show determination, to show patriotism, and also to reassure their voters, their supporters, that they can come out and come and vote, and that they will be protected on election day. The security agencies at the lower level are also reassuring people that their safety will be guaranteed and assured on election day. So I believe that the political parties should also do the needful, because they are the primary beneficiaries of this particular election, because one of them will be declared as a candidate of one of the political parties will emerge on election day as the governor of the state and the deputy governor of the state. So they should show courage, they should show determination, they should show some level of patriotism by also making sure that they do whatever it takes to guarantee some level of peace, some level of stability, and also some level of safety in the electoral process.
So let's talk about electronic voting. When INEC used the Z-Pad, a lot of people, praised INEC for that. But it's sad. I'm getting feelers that we might not get that, in this Anambra elections. What is happening? Or are we going to get it? You've conducted a couple of interviews and you're saying not too heavy on electronic. What's happening?
No. What we have done is to have what I call a technological convergence. We have introduced the INEC voter enrollment device. That enrollment device is what we are using for the purposes of the continuous voters registration exercise. And we are using this particular device to capture the fingerprint of registrants and also to capture their facials. Now, in the Anambra governorship election, this INEC voter enrollment device will now become what we call the bimodal voter accreditation system. We are going to use it for the purposes of accreditation. So when a voter gets to the polling unit, we first of all see whether the bimodal voter accreditation system will recognize the fingerprints. If it's unable to read the fingerprints, it will now capture the facials. After the election, this bimodal voter accreditation device will now transform into a Z-Pad, and we are going to use it for the purposes of uploading polling unit results into our INEC result viewing portal. So it's a 3-in-1 thing that we have packaged. We are advancing, we are not regressing. So what we have done is to gradually retire the smart card reader and also retire the Z-Pad and have a convergence that does multiple things for us.
But have you tested that technology and iterated it for failure? Because what if it doesn't do that capturing, and a lot of people still come to the polling unit with their, their cards, their voters' card that the smart card reader can read? And have you educated the electorate that the smart card reader will not be used and it's not going to be about their voters' card any longer?
Definitely. We are engaged in massive voter education through the radio, through the television, and through the social media in Anambra State. During the Isoko South 1 state constituency election in Delta State, we deployed the bimodal voter accreditation system. And when we compared what happened when we are using the smart card reader and what happened when we deployed these beavers, you can see that previously we are recording around 37% accreditation, but we're using the beavers, we recorded over 97% success. So we're excited at the fact that we have a much more robust and ruggedized application that we are going to deploy.
So real quickly, what does the electorate come to the polling booth with? So he just comes alone. He doesn't come with any voter's card or any form of identification. He just comes alone and he gets authenticated by the system. Or how does it work? Technology excites me. So I want to get every iteration about the technology itself.
No. The voter coming to the polling unit must still come with his or her voter's card. Then we are also going to print the voter's register for each polling unit. So one of the, either the assistant presiding officer 1, 2, or 3, we check the voters, the permanent voter's card to be sure that the voter is in the right polling unit, and then we will check it, check the voter's register to make sure that the voter is properly registered. And then we will now use the beavers to capture the biometrics of the voter. If the voter's fingerprint passes, the voter will now be given a ballot paper to go and vote. If the fingerprint fails, then we capture the facials. Then if the facial fails, the implication is that the person is either not the owner of the permanent voter's card, or the person wants to engage in multiple voting, or the person is engaged in identity theft. And we'll ask the person to simply walk away from the polling unit. Unless a voter leaves his or her fingerprints at home, leaves his or her face at home, and then comes to the polling unit. Other than that, we are going to capture all eligible voters on election day.
Well, as you well know, the big concern about that November 6th gubernatorial election is voter turnout. You are the director in charge of voter education, information, and all of that. What are you doing to mobilize the people of Anambra State and to reassure them that they should come out and vote? And it's important for them to take the risk. Because if the gubernatorial candidates themselves have majorly fled the state, I don't know whether whoever wins is going to run Anambra State from Alaba or from somewhere in Asaba. So what are you doing to mobilize the people to ensure that there will be voter turnout in order to protect this credibility of the process?
Well, before this period, we had already designed an elaborate voter education and enlightenment program. As of today, the director in charge of voter education and publicity, the deputy directors, the assistant directors, and the key staff of the commission are out there in Anambra, moving from one media house to the other, doing voter education. Civil society groups and organizations are out there in Anambra also doing the same thing. Our staff at the local level in Anambra are also organizing and meeting with all the critical stakeholders, reassuring them that things will be well. And at the local level, especially at the level of our electoral officers, they're also doing the same thing. But I believe that the performance of the security in terms of reassuring people and acting in a very, very civil manner, acting professionally and ethically, will also go a long way in reassuring people that they can come out to come and vote. But I believe that political parties must also do their own bit. We're also encouraging and consulting with traditional leaders, religious leaders, to also do their own bit in terms of mobilizing people. So it's a multi-stakeholder venture. All of us have to band together, act together, and also make sure that we present a narrative that reassures people that they can come out to come and vote, and that their votes will be safe, and that they will be safe voting in the election.
That is actually critical. Also, what about the INEC ad hoc staff? You know, there generally is concern about the safety of ad hoc staff, especially the youth corpus. Do you have anything you'd like to share with the public in that regard?
Well, we have a total of 5,720 polling units, and we are going to have at least a UCOR member as a presiding officer in these polling units. Then the assistant presiding officer 1, 2, and 3 will be harvested from the federal tertiary institutions in the state. So we have a responsibility to make sure that nothing untoward happens to any of these ad hoc staff that will be deployed, and all other staff that will be charged with the responsibility of conducting this particular election. Yes, we are going to provide insurance cover for all the ad hoc staff. But as you know, no form of insurance cover can replace one single life. So we are going to make sure that the security agencies give special and adequate protection to the ad hoc staff that will be deployed, and also protect all our other staff and all the election workers and the voters in the election. So we are not toying with the issue of security of the ad hoc staff. It is a top priority, and we are going to make sure that they are safe serving their nation.
Right. Let me take you back to voter education, because it's really very important. So you've been able to say now that people can go to the, what is it called, with their PVCs. What of in a case where they get authenticated with the BVAS, it doesn't go through, and they have their PVCs and the authentication goes through? What happens? Because that's going to cause a lot of discrepancy when you say you can't capture their face and you can capture their hands and all of that. What about people that have lost their fingernails or something? Or what about people that were burnt in the face, that couldn't go through the process of this capture? And it's just for the education of our voters.
Well, each permanent voter's card has a QR code at the back. The BVAS also has the capacity to read that QR code at the back of the voter's card, and that will lift up and bring out all the data relating to that particular voter. So if your fingerprint fails and your facial fails, then we will read, the BVAS will read the QR code at the back of the permanent voter's card. And if it does not bring out your face and does not bring out your biometrics, the implication is that you are not the person you purport to be.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Festus Okoye, for joining us this morning.